Welcome to R&R Resilience and Rebirth, where every voice and every story matters, because your story has the power to change someone else's life. Hello, podcast lovers. Thank you so much for coming back. I am your host, Jana, and today it is so cool. I have Todd with me today, and me and Todd, we met actually at the most amazing networking event ever. Todd is the organizer of that. So me and Todd met actually there. And so I'll dive into the organization a little bit later. But Todd, thank you, first of all, so much for being here. I know you're so extremely busy and you have so much on your plate. And for you to take out this time, I feel very blessed and very honored. Thank you for being here.
I am absolutely thrilled to be here. Thank you, Jana.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So I guess a little bit about me, the part everybody always hates, who are you? What do you do? So anyway, I'm Todd Hirschberg. I've been an entrepreneur most of my career. I do SEO consulting for ridiculously large companies whose names you've heard of. But I also have a million other projects I'm involved with, one of which is the networking group that you met me at, and that's Ocean. Right. Ocean was a little networking thing I started back in 2007. Who knew it would last this long? It was just something there was a need for. Started it up, and here we are 17 years later. We have about 160,000 folks here in Orange County who are members. We have monthly mixers. We have executive dinner series. We've got lunch and learns. We've got a million things on the horizon. And it's just a fun hobby. So, it just continues to grow, and it has just been, I've met the most amazing people. As I say, once a month I get to throw a party for 150 to 200 of my closest strangers. And we get some folks who have been there before, some folks who are there for the first time. And I just get to meet great people. And that's, I have never gotten a client from Ocean, but that's not what it's about. It's about meeting new people and finding out, what wonderful human beings there are here in Orange County. Exactly. The story I know you wanted me to tell, though, is somebody else that I met through not through Ocean, but I met somebody really, really cool through 23andMe. Mm-hmm. And so for those of you listening who are unfamiliar with 23andMe, it's one of those DNA databases, hey, come find out, what obscure relatives you have. And they send you these little messages that pop up on your phone saying, hey, we found new DNA relatives. And it's usually some fifth cousin, which can be cool, but generally who cares? One night, around 10 o'clock at night, I got one of these little pop-ups and says, you have new DNA relatives. And I looked at it, and it said, daughter, which, needless to say, was a bit of a surprise. Up until that point, I thought I had no children. So being a highly technical person with a background in engineering, I know exactly what you do when your phone gives you information like that. You turn your phone off and turn it back on again, and maybe that will fix this, because there's no way I've got a kid I didn't know about. And all it tells you is name, year of birth, and relationship. And I'm looking at the year, and I'm going, this could be troublesome. I had been a stand-up comic. I spent some time on the road, and without going into graphic detail, when you're a stand-up comic on the road, there's no telling who the mom is. So the last name didn't mean anything to me, but daughter could be married, could have her mother's maiden name, but who knows? And so I went on Facebook and I said, oh, let me see if I can figure out who this is. My daughter has a very common first name, a very common last name. So there were 100 and some odd thousand people who fit that bill, which didn't really resolve things for me.
Right.
But then in the back of my head, well, something about me. I am a freak. I have every email I have ever sent or received, except for spam, going back to the mid 90s. So, but in my brain, I seem to remember it's like, oh, wait, I remember right after college, I had lived in a house with a million people. And I had reached out to one of my former housemates about 10, 12 years back, and I said, hey, whatever happened to the folks we used to live with? And he said, oh, well, this one changed her name to Raven, and she's living up on a mountaintop somewhere. This one is doing this one's doing that. Oh, but I'm still in touch with this one woman because she and I had a kid together, and he gave the name, and in the back of my head, I go, oh, wait, no, I guess you didn't have a daughter with her. And I
I
went on
guess that was me.
I went on Facebook and I looked at his friends and looked for the name, and sure enough, there was a picture of a human being who looked surprisingly like me. So I I freaked out. Um, I'll admit it. Hey, I spent a good
Yeah.
several months, even with therapy, alternating between panic attacks and crying jags, because it really shakes up your life. But I had reached out to my daughter through 23andMe, and I said, look, this is probably as big a surprise to you as it is to me. If you want to know anything, ask. There are no taboo subjects. Nothing is off limits. You have the right to know whatever you want to know. And if you don't want me in your life, that's okay too. And I will respect that, and I'll leave you alone. 3 of the absolute longest days of my life later, I got a reply back from her and said, I'd love to get to know who you are. So we set up a video call, and my wife, being somebody who was thinking a lot clearer than I was at the time, said, ask her if you can record the call, because you're not going to remember any of it. And I did, and I still watch that video. It was just amazing getting to meet this human being. About halfway through the call, we realized that we had set this call up for the next Sunday, and that day happened to be Mother's Day, just coincidentally. But one of the things my daughter said is, hey, I was put up for adoption at birth. The couple that adopted me already had another daughter. My sister and I are super close. So if you get me, you get my sister. And I said, this is amazing. I get a biological daughter and a bonus daughter all in one easy lesson.
Right.
Having 2 new amazing human beings in my life, it's like, okay, I have no idea what they like.
How to navigate.
What do you like for birthday presents? What do you want for Christmas? I have no idea. So I asked my biological daughter what bonus daughter likes, and I asked bonus daughter what biological daughter likes, And then the next week we all got on a phone call and they said, yeah, don't go behind our backs like that. Just ask us directly, but we know what we want. We want to come visit you and meet you. And I said, absolutely. Later, I asked my wife, but yeah, I just didn't even think. It's like, absolutely. And flew the two of them down, and they spent a couple of days with my wife and myself, and it was just the most amazing experience getting to know them. I mean, lots of laughter, lots of tears, lots of, oh, that is just freaky. For example,
Yeah.
I absolutely hate eggplant. Cannot stand the taste of eggplant. But Japanese eggplant, I adore. My daughter, the exact same thing. I don't like sand on my feet. I know it. I live not far from the beach and can't stand sand on my feet. My daughter, the same way. Little mannerisms, all of these things that, yeah, this is DNA at play. And then there are things that make her uniquely her. For example, neither I nor her biological mother have any musical talent whatsoever. And my daughter is a professional musician who is making a living as a musician. And it is just wild, where that comes from, and that drive and that talent. And day one on my bucket list is like, okay, see daughter perform live. That gets added to the bucket list very quickly. So the following year, my wife and I flew up. My daughter and her sister live together. They own a duplex. My daughter lives upstairs. My bonus daughter lives downstairs. And we went up to visit them. And my daughter is driving us all over town and saying, oh, and this is where my friend. So, and as she's driving us all over the place, the phone keeps ringing and she's going, oh, yeah, I'll see you Sunday. I'll see you Sunday. And probably 20 or 30 phone calls. It's like, okay, what's going on Sunday? And should we be afraid? And it was just her inviting her friends to gather around and come meet me and my wife, and welcome the two of us into their lives. And it was just another beautiful, beautiful experience. And we no longer call each other, every week. We have lives, but we're still getting to know each other, and we're still finding out new things, and we're in each other's lives. Now, given some of her background, she's a little stressed by the term dad or so it's like, great, okay, I will be the best Todd to you I can be. And yes, I refer to her here as my daughter, but I call her by her first name rather than daughter because it makes her, it's a trigger term for her. Now, and hey, I've got baggage too. Absolutely. So we're working our way through this. Yeah, this is sort of just a long story, but it's when you put out into the universe that you like to meet new and exciting people. This is not what you expect, but it is kind of the newest, most exciting person I will ever meet in my life.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, my wife has been amazing. This all happened long before I met my wife, but it is just absolutely amazing, getting to have this experience. And as I go through, as I tell this story, people go, oh, this happened or something similar happened to my cousin or my brother. And as I've been trying to work through things on my end, I'm finding there's a whole community of people who are discovering that parents who they thought were their parents are not. And there are some estimates that it's as much as 5% of all children dad may not be who they think dad is.
Or even mom in some cases, or even
Very,
mom.
very rarely, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Hmm.
but yeah, they call it an NPE, a non-parental experience,
Yeah.
which is, or non-paternal experience, which is to say,
Yeah.
yeah, you know,
Hmm.
mom was out there getting some, so good for mom, but
All right.
it's
But I want to, if
it,
it's okay, I would
yeah,
love to, so first of all, what a when I remember when you first told me the story, I was so blown away because I almost could not believe that this is in real life, because it wasn't really like that you were aware and you were searching, because that's kind of like sort of
yes,
how it is sometimes in so often cases when we know and we're go on the search, or the child that is adopted actually goes on the search for their biological parents. And in this case, it was just really a third party in a sense that kind of like was really like this gateway, this key to
yes,
this experience. Which, first of all, shout out to me 23. Thank you.
yeah, yeah,
on this
23 me,
on this end. But I really, if that's okay with you, when you shared your story, which is a tremendous story, you said something, those 3 days, when you referred to those 3 days, they were really like the most difficult days for you, because you were pendling between panic attacks and really not knowing and having so much anxiety.
oh,
If that's okay with you, I would like to know, was it really in that time that it was you were afraid that she would just never text you, or that she would just respond in a negative way to you, or
yeah.
what was the biggest fear in that
I
time?
honestly was not certain. You we all have our views of reality, whatever that reality may be.
Right.
And for me, part of not just my reality, but who was I was somebody who had no children. I had never wanted children.
Right.
My I married a woman who never wanted children. This was
Yeah.
this was a thing that we had planned. This was part of our defining beingness. Um, and I joke now that, I didn't want children, so the universe was kind enough to give me adults instead. Because they're in their 30s when I found them. So this is, um, but when you have your worldview and your view of who you are as a human being,
Hmm.
and then something comes along that dramatically changes that. I mean, I went from think about anybody who's a new parent. It changes your life tremendously.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, simple things like, okay, well, now I have to remember one more birthday. That's a minor thing. You put that on the calendar. But now there is a person who is part of me out there
Right.
in the universe,
Right.
changes things in different ways.
Right.
Um,
I mean, it changes the whole dynamic of your
a-
life. It's a,
absolutely.
it's a dynamic changer in every aspect of
Yeah.
life. Now, when for instance, plan a vacation or you plan something, you now are, in a sense, of course, if you want to, and if you're kind enough, take that in consideration as a
Oh,
responsibility of, like, okay, this is part of my life right now. How do I go about that? Or just planning vacations, or
yeah,
just, if she
absolutely.
happens to have children at one point, who knows,
Right.
that's a whole nother
Right.
thing, that will be added, that wasn't really never in the plans. But what is so interesting to me, Todd, is the fact that how we so often underestimate the universe, and how often we underestimate the things that we say, oh, I don't need that, I don't want that. Yet when we actually allow the doors to really open, we only then understand how much we needed what they had to give us,
Mhm.
and
And,
so.
and I will be the first to admit that I literally had no idea that
Right.
the mother was pregnant. Um, and So if this was a, hey, I knew and, avoided or whatever, that would be
Yeah.
one thing. I literally had no idea. Um, and so this sort of surprise, um, it's a pleasant surprise now. At the time, I didn't know how to process it.
Mhm.
I know that I had a very poor relationship with my family.
Yeah.
So it's like now here I am in this paternal role, and it's like, okay, I have no role models that I feel are functional for this. So how do
Mhm.
I approach this? Now,
Mhm.
I mentioned that my daughter has some baggage, and I have some baggage. My baggage is I've really not spoken to any of my relatives um, in 30 plus years. So this is some significant baggage I'm bringing into a, hey, guess what? Now I have family that I'm talking to.
Right.
Um, my daughter, as I mentioned, was put up for adoption at birth. When I met her, she was estranged from her adoptive father. Her adoptive mother was in hospice care.
Mhm.
So there's some challenges emotionally
Yeah.
on the timing there. Um,
Right.
when she was in college, she wanted to find out who her birth parents were. So she had found out who they were and had reached out to them. Her birth mother only communicates via text. She had suffered some traumatic brain injury and only communicates via text, which is challenging.
Mhm.
Um, the person she thought was her biological father.
Before we continue, I wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you for your trust. These conversations can really exist because people are willing to openly listen and hold space for real conversations. If this episode resonates with you, the best way to support the podcast is to follow or subscribe so that these stories can keep reaching the people who really need to hear them. This podcast began with my story, but it continues by making space for yours. Your voice and your story matters. Now, let's get back to it.
She flew out to visit, and he something came up, and I can't see you. So when I roll in, I'm now parent number 5. Her relationship with them all has been challenging. And I
Yeah.
was told, yeah, the parenting bar is really low, but that's not who I want to be as a human being. I don't want to, oh, okay, I can get by. This is the minimum. That's not that's not bringing value or joy to this new relationship. I want to be the best, as I said, the best Todd I can be for her. So I mean, there's a set of challenges that come in here, and now had I been, you know, there and said, hey, you're pregnant, I'm the father, let's have this child, I would have probably been the worst possible father. I was going through a lot of things personally at that point in my life. I was not in a position to be a good parent.
Mhm.
Um, Now the universe has brought these two amazing women into my life in a time when I am much better able to be there for them, to be a resource for them, to be a caring human being, whether it's
Mhm.
as a parental role or not, to just be a better human being for them. So the timing is good. I mean, yes, I'd like to think that, at any point in my life, I'd have done the best I could. But now I'm in a position where it's like, okay, I can be here for you. I have time in my life. I have energy in my life. I have the capability of love in my life. Um, um, I tell my brother-in-law that who has done a fantastic job raising his daughter. It's like, that is my role model. And I've told him this. It's like that thanks to him, I know what a good father looks like. And that's what I'm trying to be. Now, more freakiness from the universe. My brother-in-law's daughter, my niece, is the only kid in the family. So my niece has always wanted cousins. So when my bio daughter and bonus daughter came to visit, it's like, cool, let's go visit. And surprise, guess what I brought you? I have brought you cousins.
Two.
Now, two. Now, through the strange and bizarre twists of fate in the universe, my niece is also adopted since birth. My niece is also about the same age. My niece is also a musician.
Wow.
When they got to talking, being people of that age, they immediately pull out their phones and say, hey, let's follow each other on Instagram, only to find out that my niece was already following my daughter on Instagram.
Wow.
Which was just one of those.
Yeah. You can't, in my opinion, you can't even call it any more coincidence. It's literally divinely guided. And also when you spoke of the timing, there's no question for me that it's like absolute divine timing of all of this having to happen, even with you going through what you had to go through at the beginning of your life. And when you said you would have been the worst dad, which personally, if I may, I don't think so, but I appreciate your transparency of really saying from yourself, I know now when I look at myself back then, and when I look at myself now, my mental state, my emotional state, my capability of just being present as a human and having interactions and just having, emotional intelligence enough of really understanding what another human is maybe going through and picking up on that possibly, I still agree that we grow in that, hopefully, when we get older. But
if we're not growing, there is something fundamentally wrong with us.
Yeah.
But yes, I think, as human beings, it's our responsibility to constantly make ourselves better. And not just ourselves, to try to, have a positive impact on the universe as a whole. It's like, okay, how do we bring people together? How do we increase the amount of caring in the world? How do we reduce, jealousies and prejudices and all of these things that are just, call them negative vibes, call them what you will, but how do we eliminate those and just make the world a better place? For the generations that come after us. And now, admittedly, 4 years ago, I thought, I don't have to care as much because, it's not like I've got kids. So, but yeah, now it's like, okay, now it's become a lot more concrete for me. Just trying to take that into consideration as I function in life.
Yeah, I also really loved what you just said, with, like the whole aspect of just supporting each other, because I see this so often in business when we talk to each other, so little. And I mean, I would not consider myself one of those people because I'm actually the very opposite. whenever I really meet somebody, I'm right away the person that says, hey, what's your Instagram? Let me follow you. Let me support you. Because really in that moment, I take out maybe 2 minutes out of my life, to really just go
Right.
through their channels
Yes.
and really just support and subscribe and like, but really if it doesn't cost anything, and it's just such an organic way of really you involving yourself in another person's success, that the universe has no other chance other than to just bring it all back to you. But you see, the thing for me is it's not really about what do I get out of it doing something. For me, it's really about if this is something that I really can do, and it doesn't do anything on my end, it's not hurting me, it doesn't, put me down, it doesn't make me feel bad. It's something actually where even if the person doesn't support me back, who cares in this moment? It's like this. If this is really your character of being a supportive human being and you thrive in that, then just do that. But I
Right.
feel like sometimes it's so challenging for people to even be like, hey, should we support each other on Instagram? Should we do this? And to me, that's
Uh,
like a non-brainer. I'm like,
Right.
why isn't this common sense?
And I think, bringing this back to Ocean, the networking group that I run,
Right.
I think this is one of the reasons it continues to be so successful.
Yeah.
Is we have some very simple rules. Number one, we don't talk religion or politics because those tend to divide people. Number two, have fun. Number
Right.
three, treat each other like adults. It's not that hard.
Right.
If you come and you put 200 people in a room, and so if you want to go to a marketing meetup, there are 1,000 of those, and by all means go. Or somebody from this industry or that industry, you go to one of these. Or you go to something that is really, really focused on generating leads. So some of these provisors and all of these sort of networking things, and that they are all valuable. I think anything that brings people together has value. But I think one of the reasons Ocean continues to grow and be as successful as it is that we don't limit by industry. We don't limit by, okay, you've got to come out of here with 3 leads. We don't charge people for membership. It's, basic membership is absolutely free. It's, we keep our costs as low as we can, and just show up, just talk to
Yeah.
strangers, because
Right.
there's so much bad will out there in the universe. But,
Right.
you know, people can find it very, very easy to be prejudiced, whether
Mhm.
they're conscious of it or not. But
Right.
if you get to know somebody and you get to like somebody, then I'd much rather have the prejudice being, hey, so and so is a nice person because I met them, and them
Right.
telling that out there rather than something else. And
Right.
I don't care who you are or what your background is. Are you a good human being? Cool. That's all I care about. That. I mean, yes, this is a business networking thing. It's great if business comes out of it, and a lot of business does. But it's because people are getting to know each other and people are getting to talk to each other.
Mhm.
And it's like,
And
okay,
and and I do want to quickly chime in here because I've been to Ocean Network like I think 5 or 6 times in all total. And I really want to say this very transparently, that exactly that fact that you are not required to show up every week to a meeting, you're not required to sign up for membership. You're not required to, having to do something to get something. This is really so organic. And I think I've told you this person to person. Every time when I go to Ocean Networking meeting, literally, I'm still to this day in touch with at least one person that I met 5 times ago.
Mhm.
and it just keeps growing. And even if there isn't any business resonating out of that, just the fact that people, for once, do not necessarily come to a networking meeting to necessarily talk about business, which is really strange to me, but it's exactly the opposite. It's really about the human aspect of like, who are you, first of all, as a human? Do I energetically match with you? And if I do, actually, let me tell you really what it is that I do. At least
Mhm.
this is how my conversations on Ocean always go down. I barely started any conversation with anybody there ever saying, what is it that you do? Barely. It maybe I was asked that, but I never started a conversation like that because it's really the vibe in the room is not about that specifically only. Now, do people come for that reason? Yes, but is that the outgoing point? Absolutely not. And so I feel like it's so organic and so low key that it makes it so unique because of the low keyness. If that makes any sense, what I'm saying.
I mean, that's what we're really striving for. Is when it boils down to it, if
Right,
you are networking for business purposes, networking is about the relationship.
right,
If you're doing the same thing as 20 other people and your potential client has you and 20 other people to choose between, the yes, it may come down to price or this or that or the other thing, but very often, all things being equal, most people would rather do business with people they know and have gotten to trust. So that relationship building is what we're about. Show up, talk to people. If you go to the marketing mixer, absolutely, you will meet other people in your industry, but you're not as likely to meet a potential client there. I want doctors and lawyers and venture capitalists and startup people and and people in the hospitality industry and everybody from every industry, put them
right.
together in a room and come up with new people that you wouldn't
Exactly.
otherwise meet.
Yeah. And not only that, but it also finally allows us all as a collective to collaborate with other industries. You don't have to stay in your lane anymore. You don't have to just promote what you are about. You can do who you are, the business that you are, and also bring your own business into other industries. Which
Yep.
is really what this whole thing in general is really supposed to be about. From like, I'm meeting you, saying to you, yeah, what is your Instagram? Let me follow you. It didn't cost me anything, but it kind of supports you. Or even this, oh, I've never actually figured out maybe working with another industry. Now, through this, it's such a great
Mhm.
bridge to just branch out and to just collaborate and brainstorm with other industries where it's never been like that before. You know what I mean? Like for
Mhm.
centuries, if you were a doctor, obviously you stay in your doctor lane. If you were a lawyer, you stay in your lawyer lane. But what if your brain that you run a law firm or like a doctor's office can be used in other industries with the same mindset, maybe not the same practice, but like, how do you psychologically, mentally, emotionally go and solve this problem? Now let me take that into my industry. And I think this is
Right.
really so what I it's such an evidence for me when I come to these meetings at Ocean. This is kind of like what I experience. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yep.
starting to see collaborations with people that I meet there, where it's like, wow, I've never thought that this could even be a collab, but yet here we are. It
Yep.
actually happened. And so I think the premise of Ocean in general is just really, in a sense, let's break bread. Let's have, like you always say, the cheapest wine, but the most fun together, and let's
Mhm.
just talk. Let's just get to know each other.
Mhm. I mean, one story that I like to tell from the very, very early days of Ocean, this was probably 2008. Um, we had a gentleman who owned a shop that mostly sold household tchotchkes. Just little stuff you put on the shelf or whatever. And a lot of it was this Mexican handicraft look-alike stuff that he would buy from a factory in China and stock the shelves with because it was really cheap. Um, he met a guy who ran gay tourism groups to Mexico.
Okay.
And they got to talking, and he goes, "Oh, that stuff that you're getting from China and you're selling, it's all mass produced for about the same price. Uh, the groups I'm taking down to Mexico, all the guys want this stuff, and we're going to the actual places out in the boonies where they're making this stuff. So why don't the next trip I'm down there, why don't I buy a bunch of originals rather than mass produced stuff and bring it back for you?" And the two of them went into an import export business as sort of a side hustle. And these are two people who would never have
Yeah.
met outside
Right.
of this. But
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you're doing that. I just happen to be in something where I can do that and make a little extra money for me. I can save you a little
Exactly.
money and you can charge more because you're getting originals rather than mass produced. And
Right.
everybody wins. It's like everybody wins. I really like that idea.
Me too.
Let's
Yeah.
make that
And
happen
that
as
and
often as
that's
we
really
can.
right. And if there would be a slogan for Ocean, I feel like that's exactly what it should be, because everybody wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is really what the premise is, not only for Ocean Network, but I feel like the mindset of humans should be. And I'm glad that we're going there soon. We're growing into that of
Right.
like, if we can all, there's enough for everybody. There's no more
Yes.
need of gatekeeping secrets. There's no more need of like holding back information because you feel like somebody's going to copy what you have, who you are, your information, your this, your that. Can that happen? Absolutely. Should you be safe and maybe patent a good idea? Absolutely.
Yes.
But should you also be not afraid of living life in your authentic way? Because listen, nobody can copy who you are.
Yes.
Nobody can translate the information that comes from your brain out of your
Mhm.
your mouth the way you're saying it. I can take the same info that you have and say it in my way, yet it will never hit another person the same way one is saying
Right.
it. And so, I feel like it all comes down to really, just believing that you are very unique and we all are very unique creations, and just embracing that, but yet also just, sharing that with each other and just allowing amazing more things to be created. Like, I really
Uh,
call that magic.
yeah.
Like I always say,
Uh,
let's create magic. And so this is the one thing, or so many things, how magic really can be created by just honestly just being who we were created to be, and just coming together and
uh,
brainstorming together.
oh yeah. I tell people, that I'm sure your mother was a wonderful human being, but the
Mhm.
worst advice she ever gave you was don't talk to strangers. I mean, yes, be safe, but think about it.
Right,
If you never spoke to a stranger, you'd end
right,
up marrying a first cousin, and nobody wants that.
right.
You have to meet new people. That's
Yeah,
where that's where wonderful things happen. If
yeah,
you're talking to the same four people over and over and over, I mean,
yeah,
no matter how wonderful those people are, you're number one, you're going to get bored. Number two, you're not growing as a human being. You're not being
yeah,
exposed to new things. Um,
yeah,
I have met some amazing people through Ocean who do things that I didn't even know were a thing.
yeah,
Uh, there was a woman who is studying. She's a researcher studying the psychological effects of malnutrition in children. It's like, oh, I mean, when you hear it, sure, it makes it. But who knew somebody was actually doing this, and
right.
and who knew that I was going to get the opportunity to meet that human being and
Yeah,
learn about that, because that's what they know better than anybody else in the room. And it's like,
right.
that's cool. Tell me more. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
or you meet somebody who, they're in the hospitality industry, but they've got a cool podcast that's, sometimes in German. And it's like, wunderbar, let's,
Yes, exactly.
let's meet this human
Yeah.
being, and let's grab a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
and talk. And it's just there are
Hmm.
all of these amazing, awesome. No, don't get me wrong. There are some people who you just don't get along with. Sometimes that happens, but
Sure.
out of the literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people I have met hosting these events, the number of people who annoy me, I can count on one hand. It's really,
Right.
it's, and I'll admit it, just somehow the people that annoy me just never seem to find another invitation in their inbox. But
Just discreetly.
just somehow I'm sorry, you somehow got dropped from the mailing list.
Yeah,
Let's
just somehow that happened.
It just somehow happened. But
Hmm.
five or so out of 160,000, I think that
Right.
the
Yeah.
numbers are pretty good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, but yeah, I mean, I don't, I mean, I could do this with you for hours, but I know you have such a busy schedule, but I do want to say, that I'm so proud of you, because
Oh,
the
thank you.
story that you shared with your daughter, and really finding, your strength and your inner courage, and actually, really who you're really honestly supposed to be your entire life, not knowing, but here
Yeah.
you are finding it out, by embracing your daughter and her sister, and it's just what a wonderful story, and I'm so glad, that yet you still get to experience what it really means to have, a child, because it's such a wonderful thing. I mean, I'm a mom myself, so is the best thing that I created in my life, in all honesty. And so I'm
And
I'm happy that you're in the club.
well, thank you. And I mean, I think the greatest thing about this is it has been so amazing so far, and it's
Yeah.
just beginning. And
Yeah, right. It's just the beginning.
it's there is, a whole lifetime of new
Yeah.
things to learn and discover about ourselves as human beings. And I'm
Yeah,
very excited by
exactly.
that prospect. And I'm getting
Yeah.
misty eyed. Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm excited for you. But if it's okay with you, Todd, I would love to put down the Ocean Network information in the show notes.
absolutely.
For people to come in and join this amazing event, which I'm so happy it's happening, and I'm always going to be there every month.
Yep. Excellent.
I
Well,
love, I
yeah,
love them.
it's easy enough to find. It's theoceanwebsite.com.
Mhm.
I tried to make
Okay.
it as easy as possible to find. But yeah, if you put the link, that'll make it just a simple click away.
I totally will. But thank you again so much for
Well,
your
thank you for
authenticity
having
and
me.
sharing.
Well,
Really, such amazing part of your life. I'm honored that you shared it on my podcast.
thank you for having me as a guest and letting me tell this.
Of course.
I still get happy when I talk about it. So
Yeah,
it brings me joy every day. So thank you so much.
you're welcome. Well, podcast lovers, another great one. And as always, if you have something on your heart, if there's maybe a topic you want to come and discuss with me, or share your heart, or speak on something that really is internally inside of you, my red carpet is always open for you. But until then, stay rooted, stay grounded, and always stay connected to love, the strongest force in the universe.